What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Miguelito To Toe, where we break down the fights, the fighters, the drama, and everything that happens when the bell rings. We're back in Fightland. We made it through episode 1, 2, and 3, and now we're at episode 4. Protect yourself at all times. And let me tell you something. After this episode, that title hits a little different. Because in boxing, when the referee tells you to protect yourselves at all times, they're not just talking about what's happening between the ropes. And Duke is about to learn that lesson the hard way. Spoiler warning. We're breaking down episode 4, so if you haven't watched it yet, go watch it first. Now let's get into it. Episode 4 feels different from the first 3 episodes. The show slows down just enough to let some of the characters breathe. And I actually think that's a good thing. Because we've had explosions, we've had revenge, we've had betrayals, we've had Duke digging deeper and deeper into the Marshall family's world. But episode 4 starts making this story more personal, and that's where Fightland becomes much more interesting. The episode opens with Duke and Zeke taking action against the Russians. And I'm sitting there thinking, Duke, what the hell are you doing? Because Duke came back looking for revenge against Kingsley. Now he's involved in a situation that's getting bigger and bigger. This isn't just Duke versus Kingsley anymore. Now you've got different criminal factions getting involved. And that's dangerous. Because once you start creating enemies outside of your original target, you don't control how the fight ends. Duke gets back in the gym. Now this is what I wanted to see. Duke starts getting back into the gym. And as a boxing fan, I'm sitting there like, finally, this man is a former heavyweight champion. I need to see him throw some punches. But there's something deeper going on here. Duke isn't just training because he wants to become a boxer again. Boxing represents who he used to be before prison, before revenge, before everything went wrong. Getting back into the gym means he's reconnecting with a part of himself that he thought was gone. And I really like that aspect of the episode. Then we get the confrontation with Jackhammer. And this is where the boxing world starts getting involved in Duke's situation again. The two get into a physical confrontation and somebody captures it on video. And what happens? The internet does what the internet does. The video starts getting attention. Suddenly, everybody's talking about Duke. And Zeke sees an opportunity. Because if Duke is going viral, why not turn that attention into a fight? That's boxing business 101. Create controversy, create hype, create a storyline, then sell the fight. And honestly, that's one of the most believable parts of the episode. Turning drama into money. This is something I love about Fightland. The show understands that boxing isn't just about punching somebody. It's entertainment, it's promotion, it's marketing, it's personalities. And sometimes the biggest fight isn't created because two fighters hate each other. It's created because somebody realizes we can make money off these two fighting. Duke and Jackhammer have conflict. The video gives them attention, and suddenly there's a business opportunity. That's boxing. But now Duke has a choice. Does he get back into the ring, or does he continue focusing on his revenge mission? And that's a legitimate question, because boxing could give Duke something he hasn't had since returning home: purpose. Because it could also become a distraction. And if Duke gets back into the ring, everybody is going to be watching him, including people he probably doesn't want watching him. Then we have the emotional side of episode 4. Joy wants out. She wants to leave this entire world behind, and she wants Duke to come with her. And I understand where she's coming from, because looking at everything happening around them, bombings, criminal organizations, violence, revenge, people getting hurt, Joy is basically saying enough is enough. She wants a different life, but Duke isn't ready to walk away. And that tells us something important about Duke. He's not just fighting Kingsley anymore. He's becoming addicted to the mission. And then there's Kim. The relationship between Kim and Duke becomes even more complicated because remember, Kim isn't exactly who Duke thinks she is. She's working undercover, and now she's getting closer to Duke. That's a dangerous combination because Duke is trying to manipulate the criminal world while Kim is trying to investigate it, and neither one can completely reveal what they're really doing. That's a recipe for disaster. The boxing lesson. This is where the title of the episode comes back into play. Protect yourself at all times. In boxing, that means don't drop your guard. Don't assume you're safe. Don't stop paying attention just because you think the danger has passed. And that's exactly what's happening in Fightland. Everybody has their guard down around somebody. Duke doesn't completely trust Kinsley. Joy doesn't trust the situation. Kim is hiding her real identity. The marshals are dealing with enemies, and everybody thinks they can control the situation. But eventually, somebody is going to get caught with a punch they didn't see coming. And then we get to the ending. This is where episode 4 goes from interesting to damn. The Russian situation comes back around. The gym gets attacked, and Gary gets stabbed. But that's not even the biggest bombshell, because Aiden is kidnapped. Joy is terrified, and she calls Duke. She tells him they've taken our son. And then she drops the bombshell. Aiden is Duke's son. What? Now, I'll be honest. Some viewers probably saw that coming, but knowing it and hearing Joy actually say it to Duke are two completely different things. And suddenly, everything changes. Duke's new fight. Think about what Duke wanted when he came home. Revenge. That's it. He wanted Kingsley to pay. But now, he's got a son. And that son has been kidnapped. Now, Duke has something else to fight for. And that's a much stronger motivation than revenge. Because revenge is about the past, and your child is about the future. And now Duke has to decide what kind of man he's going to be. I really like the character development in this episode, especially with Joy, Sabella, and Kim. The women of Fightland get much more to do here, and it adds another layer to the story. I also like the fact that the show brought boxing back into the conversation. Because let's be honest, sometimes I forget I'm watching a boxing show. We need more rounds, more training, more fights, more boxing. But episode 4 finally starts moving Duke back towards the ring. And that's something I'm definitely looking forward to. What I didn't like. Now, I'm going to keep it real. Some of the twists in this episode are pretty easy to see coming. The Aiden revelation, especially, doesn't feel completely unexpected. And some of the storylines move so quickly that I wish the show would slow down and let certain moments breathe. One review of the episode made a similar criticism, noting that several of the twists are heavily telegraphed. But even when I can predict where the story is going, I still want to see what happens, and that's important. So, what's my rating for Fightland episode 4? I'm giving this episode a 9 out of 10. I actually think this is one of the strongest episodes of the season so far. The story slows down, the characters get more development. Duke starts reconnecting with boxing, the criminal conflict gets bigger, and then we get that massive cliffhanger. Episode 4 changes Duke's mission. Before this episode, Duke was fighting for revenge. Now, he's fighting for something much more personal, his son. And that's going to change the way he approaches everything. Because now Duke can't afford to simply think about himself. He's got somebody else depending on him. And if there's one thing boxing teaches you, it's that when you're backed into a corner, you better protect yourself at all times. Because the next punch could come from anywhere. But that's my review of Fightland episode 4, Protect Yourself at All Times. Now I want to hear from you. Did you see the Aiden revelation coming? Do you think Aiden is really Duke's son? Should Duke get back into the ring? And most importantly, what do you think Duke is going to do to get his son back? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you're enjoying these Fightland reviews, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to Miguelito To Toe, and turn on those notifications. We're going episode by episode until we see how this whole thing ends. This is Miguelito To Toe. That's all for this round. Keep your guard up, and I'll see you in the next one.